The war in Ukraine is a major conflict that began in 2014. It started with the annexation of Crimea by Russia and the subsequent unrest in the eastern regions of Ukraine. The initial phase of the conflict saw pro-Russian separatists clashing with Ukrainian forces, leading to a prolonged and bloody struggle. The conflict escalated significantly in February 2022 when Russia launched a full-scale invasion of the country. This marked a dramatic shift in the scale and intensity of the war, with Russian forces advancing on multiple fronts and targeting key Ukrainian cities with missile strikes and ground assaults. This conflict has had a devastating impact on Ukraine, causing widespread destruction and displacement. Entire cities have been reduced to rubble, and millions of Ukrainians have been forced to flee their homes, seeking refuge in neighboring countries and beyond. The war has also created significant tensions between Russia and Western countries, leading to a series of economic sanctions aimed at crippling the Russian economy. In response, NATO and other Western allies have provided substantial military support to Ukraine, including weapons, training, and intelligence. The conflict is rooted in complex historical, political, and cultural factors. The relationship between Russia and Ukraine has been fraught with tension for centuries, with both nations sharing a long and intertwined history. Political leaders on both sides have used this history to justify their actions and rally support. Russia and Ukraine share deep historical ties, but Ukraine has also sought to assert its independence and align itself more closely with the West. This desire for independence has been a driving force behind the conflict, as Ukraine looks to break free from Russian influence and integrate with European institutions. The situation remains highly volatile, with no end to the fighting in sight. Ongoing battles continue to rage across the country, with Ukrainian soldiers holding the front lines in trenches and urban warfare becoming a daily reality. The international community watches closely, hoping for a resolution but preparing for a prolonged conflict. In a significant development, tensions between Russia and Ukraine have reached a new high. Russia has accused Ukrainian forces of crossing the border and carrying out attacks in the Kursk region, a critical area near the border. Russian authorities claim that a group of Ukrainian saboteurs infiltrated Russian territory, engaging in armed clashes with Russian border guards. These skirmishes reportedly took place in a forested area, adding to the complexity of the situation. These accusations have heightened tensions and raised concerns about a potential escalation of the conflict. Political analysts are now debating the implications of this incident, while protesters on both sides are voicing their concerns. Russia has presented this alleged incursion as a dangerous provocation by Ukraine. Government officials have held press conferences to emphasize the severity of the situation, describing it as an aggressive act that cannot be ignored. They argue that it demonstrates Ukraine's willingness to expand the conflict beyond its borders and directly target Russian territory. Ukrainian forces, on the other hand, are seen preparing for potential retaliation, with military vehicles and tanks positioned near the border. The Kremlin has vowed to respond decisively to any further aggression. High-ranking military officials are now in meetings to discuss the next steps, and a military parade has been organized to showcase Russia's readiness to defend its territory. Ukraine has vehemently denied Russia's accusations, dismissing them as baseless fabrications. Ukrainian officials have stated that their forces are solely focused on defending Ukrainian territory and have not conducted any operations inside Russia. They have accused Russia of spreading disinformation to justify its own aggressive actions. Ukraine has called on the international community to condemn Russia's accusations and to hold them accountable for their actions in Ukraine. They have maintained that Russia is the aggressor in this conflict and that Ukraine is acting in self-defense. Russian President Vladimir Putin has condemned the alleged incursion as a terrorist act, emphasizing the severity of the situation and the threat it poses to national security. He has vowed to protect Russia's borders with all available resources, ensuring the safety and sovereignty of the nation. Putin has accused Ukraine of attempting to destabilize Russia through these aggressive actions, which he claims are part of a larger strategy to undermine Russian stability. He has warned of serious consequences for any further provocations, stating that Russia will respond firmly to any threats against its territory. Putin's statements reflect the Kremlin's narrative of portraying Ukraine as the aggressor in this conflict, a stance that has been consistently maintained in Russian media. This narrative aims to rally public support within Russia, presenting the country as a victim of external aggression and justifying any defensive measures taken. Russia's top military commander, General Valery Gerasimov, has also weighed in on the situation, echoing Putin's sentiments and reinforcing the government's stance. Gerasimov has stated that Russia will take all necessary measures to neutralize the threat, highlighting the readiness and capability of the Russian military. He has accused Ukraine of using terrorist methods to achieve its goals, a serious allegation that underscores the gravity of the situation. Gerasimov has pledged a swift and decisive response to any further acts of aggression, ensuring that Russia remains vigilant and prepared to defend its interests. Section 5. Examining the evidence. Reports from the ground. Reports from the ground remain fragmented and often contradictory. Russia has released videos and images that they claim show Ukrainian forces operating inside Russia. However, the authenticity and context of this footage have been disputed by Ukraine and independent analysts. Geolocated video footage has emerged, appearing to show fighting in the vicinity of the alleged incursion. However, it is difficult to independently verify the identities of the combatants or the exact circumstances surrounding the clashes. Section 6. Unraveling the strategy. Why Kursk? The alleged incursion, if true, raises questions about Ukraine's strategic objectives. Some analysts have suggested that it could be an attempt to draw Russian forces away from other areas of the front line or to disrupt Russian logistics and supply lines. Others have speculated that it could be a symbolic act of defiance, aimed at demonstrating Ukraine's resolve and ability to strike back against Russia. However, the true motives behind the alleged incursion remain unclear. Section 7. A history of conflict, from energy to sanctions. The current conflict between Russia and Ukraine is deeply intertwined with their shared history and complex geopolitical dynamics. The two countries have been linked for centuries, but their relationship has been marked by periods of both cooperation and conflict. The collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991 led to Ukraine's independence, but tensions persisted over issues such as energy, language, and cultural identity. The 2014 annexation of Crimea by Russia and the subsequent conflict in eastern Ukraine further exacerbated these tensions. Section 8. The road ahead, uncertainty and escalation. The alleged incursion by Ukrainian forces into Russia has injected a new element of uncertainty into the ongoing conflict. It remains to be seen how Russia will respond, and whether this incident will lead to a further escalation of the fighting. The international community has called for restraint and de-escalation, but the situation remains highly volatile. The risk of miscalculation and unintended consequences is high, and the potential for a wider conflict cannot be ruled out.